We started out and we dealt with the challenge of expectations in the first Sunday of the new year. And on last week we did the challenge of excuses. We talked about how Moses did not want to accept his assignment God had placed on his life. So today we're going to shift. And on today I want to talk about the challenge of ethics. In this weekend in which we remember and celebrate the legacy and life of Dr. King and Dr. V. Washington, we want to talk about the challenge of ethics, principles, those things that guide us and drive us and frame who we are and give distinction to how we carry ourselves and what actions we take in this life. And so Luke chapter 10, Luke chapter 10, meet me in verse 25. All right. Again, Luke 10, verse 25, we'll start there. Familiar passage to many of us. I'm reading from the NIV version. It says, on one occasion, an expert in the law stood up to test Jesus. Teacher, he asked, what must I do to inherit eternal life?
Well,
what is written in the law? He replied, and how do you read it? He answered, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, and with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. You answered correctly, Jesus replied, do this, and you will live. But he wanted to justify himself. He asked Jesus, who is my neighbor?
mercy.
Sounds like some of us. If you can admit that you've asked that question before, then you can have a good time in worship today. If you can't admit you've asked that question, it might be tough for you today. In reply, Jesus said a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho. When he was attacked by robbers, they stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. The priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. So too a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, an enemy of the Jews, half-breeds as they were called. As he traveled, he came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. He went to him, bandaged his wounds, pouring oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, took care of him. And on top of that, the next day he took out 2 denarii, gave them to the innkeeper. Look after him, he said, and when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expense you may have. Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers? The expert in the law replied, the one who had mercy on him. Jesus finally told him again, go and do likewise. Amen. You may be seated in the presence of our God. And on today I want to use a phrase that was used by my dear brother and friend, pastors in Ohio. We had a great conversation. Pastor Bernard Allen and I were talking about the state of this country, the state of our society, the times we live in. And he used the phrase that there needs to be a voice of conscience. And on today I give him credit and apply that title to this sermon, because today I want to preach about the voice of conscience. The voice of conscience. In 1995, Richard Lisher, who's on the staff, faculty of Duke Divinity School, he wrote a book entitled The Preacher King, the word that moved America. And in this book, Dr. Lisher pens a prolific piece in which he, in one way, gives some backstory to the life of Dr. King, but also tries to frame his life and his legacy in such a way that we view him through the lens of his voice. That Dr. King was not merely a leader in the civil rights movement, but he was a man with a tremendous voice. A voice that challenged America. A voice that confronted inconsistencies and inequities and inequalities in America. A voice that made some people uncomfortable with how America's systems were being operated. A voice that called into question the fact that America could be at war thousands of miles across the seas and the oceans, and could go into other territories, other people's lands, and attempt to propose and put in place a system and code of ethics, yet come back home and see a lack of ethics.
Talk.
Can see resources going to other nations, yet not enough resources in neighborhoods right here at home.
Well,
could attempt to hold other countries and nations accountable for their ethics, their principles, their cultures, their practices, and yet come back home and not look in the mirror at our own inconsistencies, our own ills, our own racial discrimination and inequality right here in America.
right.
That we could have bloodshed over there, but ignore the bloodshed we have right here. So we have a voice, a word, Dr. Lisher said, that moved America, that literally shook the foundations, as Paul Tillich said. Because sometimes the foundations have to be shaken and have to shudder, and sometimes the status quo has to be disrupted and interrupted. So that we can raise our level of living, and so that we can, to be blunt and frank about it, actually live out what we say with our lips. What we preach and teach and sing about on Sundays and Wednesdays. King's voice, Dr. Washington's voice, other preachers and pastors, men and women who have served your voices, serve as examples of what it means to live with a sense of conscience. Young people, that's just a big word. It means you live thoughtfully, that you live carefully,
Right.
that you take time to actually understand why you do what you do. That we're not just meeting at church to sing and shout and run around and then go right back out and live the same lives we were living before we walked in. With conscience. Dr. King died because he had a conscience. Medgar Evers died because he had a conscience. Rosa Parks kept her seat because she had a conscience.
Preach.
Reverend Shuttlesworth died because he had a conscience. Dorothy Height sacrificed a lot in her life because she had a conscience.
Preach.
Emmett Till was tortured and brutally murdered because some people had the audacity to have a conscience. Buses in Montgomery and systems were crippled because enough folk had a conscience chose not to ride the bus for over a year because they had a conscience. Young people, singles, young adults, if we want to grab the baton that is being passed by our elders, we've got to have a conscience. Some of us may not like this, but we've got to have a conscience. How you look when you're in Walmart and Target matters. You ought not come to the grocery store in house shoes. Because they're house shoes for your house, baby.
Talk.
I know you don't like that, but I love you anyhow. I'm trying to help you. Because you can't be great and be small at the same time. You can't live up here and live down here at the same time. You got to have a conscience. You got to look in the mirror and tell yourself that you're somebody. Somebody missed what I said because you should have shouted right there. Thank you, Holy Ghost. We are fearfully, the Bible says, and wonderfully. That means we've been formed magnificently and uniquely in the image of God. And if you have been shaped in the image of God, you ought not come out of your house looking like you don't care about how you look, about how you sound, about what you say, about how you live. I'm not talking about morality, I'm talking about conscience. None of us are, I'm not talking about moral superiority, I'm talking about the sense of principle.
Principles.
That you live on a certain level. There's levels to this. That ought not apply only to slang and songs, it ought to apply to your life. There's levels to this. You ought to live at the highest level. But you can't operate there with a little conscience.
Preach, sir.
Where does it start? It starts with homework every day after school. Where else does it start? It starts with parents sitting down on the sofa with the child to do the homework after school.
Help yourself,
Or
Doc.
get mature if you're still at work. But you can't neglect them and then send them to pastor, send them to the deacons and the deaconesses and say, Lord, help me save my child. No, baby, it starts with you at home. If you have a conscience.
Conscience.
I don't want to get a whole lot of shouting. That's all right.
Conscience.
All right, you just. Oh, preach the word. Go ahead.
Holy Ghost reminded me that when Jesus was being introduced, the voice, the Bible says, that was heard was a voice that did not come from a palace, did not come from the office of the president, did not come from the emperor's royal palatial suite. It came from the wilderness. It was a voice crying in the wilderness. Because God's voice was heard through the personality of the prophet John the Baptist.
Yeah.
Who didn't have a nice robe on like I got on. He didn't have his hair cut, didn't have a good lineup, didn't have new shoes, didn't have a fresh shave. He was scruffy and rugged looking. And the Bible says he ate honey and locusts.
Wow. That's right, Doc.
He had scars on his feet from walking around from place to place. He had body odor from being outside all day and all night long. He perspired, he was sweating, he was not too good to look at, but he had a voice. And with his voice, he proclaimed that repent and turn
Right.
to the only one that can be your Savior. And in this culture, in this day and age, especially young adults and youth, I need you to understand something. Everything about the culture that's enjoyable is not beneficial.
Talk.
See, sometimes mom and daddy and big mama and grandpa and uncle and auntie and them, they're not trying to keep you from having fun. They're trying to save your life. I know I'm taking longer than I intended to get going, but sometimes when somebody's been down the road you're traveling, wow, there's some new stuff and some additional exits you can take on the road. It's the same road. They just added some stuff since their generation had come along. So I need my elders to understand that there are some new attractions that you can take an exit to that weren't there when you were traveling. However, young people, I need y'all to understand that your elders are right when they give you wisdom about the journey you're taking. It's the same road.
Preach, man.
Bible says nothing new under the sun. New technology, same sin. New technology, same temptation. And therefore, this journey, there's a man on the journey. He's attacked by robbers. And somebody shows up to help him. But we get this story because it's couched in between two other occasions.
Right.
Because in Luke 10, we see that Jesus is sending ahead of him fellow appointees. 72 are sent out by twos to go into every town and place. The Bible says the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. And he's sending out workers to extend the invitation to put faith in Jesus Christ. But it tells them, catch this, I'm sending you out as lambs among wolves.
Teach.
But I want you to understand, you have my assurance in an atmosphere of hostility. That you're going to be dealing with some people that are going to be hostile and in opposition, that they won't listen to you, don't want to give you the time of day, and yet, here's your assurance. If they listen, be peaceful and give them everything that they ask for in terms of your message of redemption and salvation. Stay with them. Let them give you some food. You deserve to eat something if you're traveling. And if they receive you, receive them. But if they don't receive you, shake the dust off.
Yeah.
And keep going.
Keep moving.
Because you have my assurance. You're held accountable for delivering the message. They're held accountable for receiving the message. That's why when we go out and witness this year, we're not called to save anybody. We are called to go and introduce everybody that we can to Jesus. And whether or not they receive him is on them. But that story is the top bun, because the bottom bun of this sandwich is there is a situation where Jesus is on his way with his disciples, and they come to a very familiar place, the home of Martha and Mary.
Teach.
Jesus was friends with Martha and Mary, and frequently spent time with them. And the Bible says that these two sisters were at the house, and when Jesus shows up, that Mary was sitting at the Lord's feet, listening to what he said. But Martha was in the kitchen working, cleaning, wiping stuff down, trying to make preparations. And the Bible says that she was so consumed by it that it was as if she was distracted. She couldn't spend time with Jesus because of what she was distracted with in the kitchen. It wasn't that what she did in the kitchen was bad. It's just it wasn't best. It wasn't the most important thing she could be doing.
Yeah, come on, preacher.
Right.
Work with it.
And so that's why when she went with her hands on her hip and said, Jesus, why don't you tell my sister, that sister of mine, to get in this kitchen and help me? He said, no. He said, you're getting upset, my darling. Calm down. Mary's chosen that which is better.
Come on. Work with it.
She understands that life presents distractions, but you got to learn how to focus on what is most important, and that's me in your presence.
Work with it.
And you can clean dishes anytime, but I'm the Savior of humanity.
Come on.
And Mary got it right.
Come on.
She wants to spend time with me.
With the basket.
What you're doing is good, Martha, but that's not what's most important right now.
Come on, preacher.
So that's the bottom bun. And in the middle, we have this encounter.
Oh, yeah.
I got hurt. We have this encounter
Teach.
because Jesus ends up having a conversation with an expert.
Teach.
Normally, I like the word expert because I love to read books, and therefore, when I see the word expert, what that tells me is I can normally count on, even if I don't agree with everything, I can normally count on a certain level of research and effort and substance that goes into what is written, because if they're an expert, that means they specialize in it. It means they studied it for years and years and had to write papers and read hundreds, if not thousands of books, and they are learned in that discipline. They are experts. So I like that. No.
Yeah.
But when I read expert in the Bible, it gets a little dicey. Because this expert
Yeah.
had some issues.
Teach.
Because in the passage, he encounters Jesus. Jesus encounters him. He comes up to Jesus and says, Teacher, what do I have to do to gain eternal life? You know what Jesus does? He flips it and says, what's written in the law? You're the expert.
Teach.
Don't try to be smart aleck with me. You the expert. And now you're trying to ask me a question as if you don't know what the law says. What's in the law? But notice what else Jesus said. And how do you read it?
Right.
Because I'm going to get to that in a minute. I know you know the law, but how do you read the law?
Work with it. Break it down.
Supreme Court, you know the law, but how do you interpret it? Do you understand the power of what it means to be on the Supreme Court? Young people, do you understand what that means? That means they get to interpret the law. They get to frame it based on their understanding.
Yeah.
So it can be applied in our lives. You know how much power that is? Don't you realize that's why the current president did what he did and said what he said when he campaigned? Because he understands. If I get the folk I want to interpret the law, be interpreted in ways that benefit the people I want to be benefited, and they'll interpret the law in ways that create and set up and sustain policies that benefit the folk that I want to benefit.
Right.
All right.
I wish you could catch what I was saying.
You're right.
And so Jesus flips it on this smart aleck. He says, okay, you answer correctly, because he regurgitated the law. Love the Lord your God, all your heart, all your soul, all your strength, all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. Jesus said, you're right, you did good. I knew you could do it. But catch this, now go do it and you'll live.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in you telling me what the law is. Go show me.
Come on.
Teach.
King died because he called on America not to say what the ideals are, but to show the world what your ideals are.
Yeah.
Wish somebody would catch that.
Conscience.
America, you're doing a good job telling everybody what your ideals are, but you're not doing a good job showing everybody. That's why Muhammad Ali said, I'm not going. I know I'm taking long today, but just walk.
Take your
That's
time.
why Muhammad Ali said, no, I'm not going. I'd rather sit incarcerated than go take the life of somebody that's never called me the N-word. What am I fighting them over there for? It ain't them, it's y'all.
Conscience.
Oh, you're right.
It's not some Vietnamese family that's terrorizing black folk in my community. So why am I gonna go fight them? No, it's police officers and judges and lawyers and teachers and cab drivers and bus drivers right here in America. That's the war that I'm in.
Help. Help. Conscience.
It'll cost you something. When he had to fight just to regain the belt he'd already earned because he had a conscience.
Stay on it. Yeah, stay on it.
Let me hear it.
Stay on it.
Help.
So,
Get it. Get it.
Jesus challenges him, do this and you'll live. But Jesus already knew, man. But he wanted to justify himself. He's being coy, he's being shrewd, he's being hypocritical, he's deceitful. He said, well, Jesus, who's my neighbor?
Come on.
I know I'm supposed to go love my neighbor as myself, but who's my neighbor? How do I define neighbor? And so then he tells this story. And so what happens is, Jesus tells him a story. Man is journeying from Jerusalem to Jericho, and he's trying to give him a picture of who his neighbor is. But I need you to understand this. You see, love your neighbor as yourself is referenced in the Old Testament. Jesus knew that this expert also knew this. And so he flips it on him, because what the man was basically saying was, I know what Leviticus 19 says. Go back and read it tonight when you get home. Because Leviticus 19 says that it basically functions by showing the awesome responsibility of what it means to be in a relationship with a holy God and a righteous God, and how that has to be reflected in our righteous living. That the sins of God's people, they are atoned for by God's willingness to accept sacrifice that is rendered unto Him with a humble and repentant heart. And in the 19th chapter of Leviticus, we see stuff like, make sure that you remember to keep my decrees. Israel had been emancipated out of the bondage of Egypt, but they had to be guided and established, and they needed order and organization. So Leviticus is about the distinction of God's people. That you are distinguished because you are in relationship with a holy God. If God's holy, you've got to be holy. So here's some stuff you need to remember. Don't make different kinds of animals. Don't plant the field with two different kinds of seed. Don't wear clothing woven of two kinds of material. Don't eat meat with blood still in it. Don't practice divination and sorcery and omens. And don't cut the hair at the sides of your head and clip off the edges of your beard. Don't tattoo your body, and don't do, because at that time that was their way, catch this, of creating contrast.
Teach.
Distinction.
Teach.
Identity. That made them separate, not better, but separate from other people.
Teach.
But here's what Jesus was trying to show this expert. Religious devotion provides contrast and distinction as the people of God, but it was never intended to prohibit a sense of connection to other people. Here it is. Identifies us, but should not isolate us. If you're looking for a point, that's point one. Religion identifies us, but should not isolate us. Because when he asks, who's my neighbor, he's taking that from a stance of isolation. I don't have to be connected to everybody. So go ahead, who's my neighbor? See, relationship, Jesus is trying to show him, prioritize his neighbor. Because if you read Leviticus 19, it talks about neighbors. It says, don't rob your neighbor, don't pervert justice and show partiality or favoritism to anybody, judge your neighbors fairly. He said, don't endanger your neighbor's life. He says, rebuke your neighbor frankly. Hold them accountable if they need to be held accountable, but don't seek to get revenge or hold grudges. Love your neighbor as yourself. But here's what else Leviticus 19 says. When a foreigner, President Trump, expert in the law, when a foreigner resides among you, not just in the White House with you, but on the borders of this country that don't have access to your wealth and your White House, when other foreigners reside,
Teach.
don't mistreat them. That's what Leviticus says. So you want to check it? It ain't what the pastor said, it's what the Bible says. The foreigner residing among you must be treated as your native born. Ooh, that's gonna make some folk upset. You can tell me folk that weren't born here ought to be treated with the same dignity as folk that were born here? Yeah! Because newsflash, everybody came here except the Native American. See how quiet some was that right there? You see, we go to work with folk that we try to be polite to. But your ancestors, they came over here just like we did. The only difference is they brought us after they made it and took it over. Amen, stained glass windows.
Preach, sir. Preach.
But we all guests in this house. You just got here first to take it over from the other folk, and now you got all the wealth, all the power, and you're afraid.
Yeah.
And if other folk ever get the same power, the same wealth, they'll do to you what you've done to them. It's fear mongering.
Have mercy.
So that's why I'll perpetuate false narratives and fake news. Because the Bible says, treat foreigners just as good as you treat your brothers and sisters. Because guess what Jesus reminded? That's what it says. In Leviticus, it says, for you were foreigners in Egypt.
All right.
So Israel, don't get so proud that you forget you had to be brought out of Egypt. You were foreigners, you were taken, you were subjugated to their hard enslaved labor. So don't mistreat somebody else that comes along just because God's got you on your feet. Translation 2020. Don't look down at other folks just because you got your new house now. You drive your foreign car now. Remember what you drove in 1985 and 75 and 65. Remember how you dressed when you were in your 20s and 30s.
Foreign.
You didn't always have St. John in his closet.
All right, preacher. Come on. Say that.
Amen, stained glass window. You didn't always eat lobster.
Come on, preacher. For sure.
Blackened with lemon juice on the top.
Come on, preacher.
No, you ate whatever the Lord provided. And not He's providing more. And so we shouldn't forget that.
Preach. Yes, sir.
I got ready. Here's the sad irony, and we're going to push this on. The one driven by his expertise and knowledge of the law was detached and devoid of the spirit that the law was supposed to develop. The law was supposed to develop an awareness for God. We're not saved by the law.
No. Come on now, Pete.
We are reminded by the law that we need to save.
Yeah.
Tweet that today. We're not saved by the law. We're reminded by the law that we need to save. The law is your stop sign. The law is the speed sign that says 50, 60, 75. That's what the law is. And so, relationship prioritizes neighbors, but you know what else relationship does? It prioritizes and recognizes the needs of others. Because very quickly, he tells a story. He says there's a man going from Jerusalem to Jericho. This was a dangerous place. He's attacked. A priest comes by. A Levite comes by. Both of them, when they saw the man, went to the other side of the street. But the Samaritan traveled, saw the man, took pity on him, had compassion. Samaritans were enemies of the Jews.
Right.
But an enemy can become a friend in a time of need. You don't know who God's going to use to help you. I wish you'd help me preach right here. It will be done. You don't know who God's going to put in your path, put in position to be a blessing to your life. So you better treat everybody right. The Samaritan was the only one that looked beyond his ethnicity, looked beyond his culture, looked beyond whatever labels that were attached to his life, and he saw a need. There was a man lying there half dead. Because relationship recognizes need. He understood though he was a stranger, he was a human being. And you are connected to every human being in this world, even though you may never know their name. That's what King died for. That's what he lived for. Not to set blacks against whites, or whites against blacks, blacks below whites, or blacks above whites. That's not what his legacy was. His legacy was not one of a grudge, or revenge, or race baiting, or retaliation. No, his legacy was, we are all members of this common human community.
Come on.
Right. Right.
We're all woven into the fabric of humanity. And when one thread is torn, you ever seen a thread get snapped? What happens to the rest of the yarn? Eventually, it'll unravel. Leave it unchecked long enough. Walk around with it, let it stay snagged long enough, it begins to unravel. We have an unraveling society. We have an unraveled democracy.
Yes, sir.
Because threads have been torn. Threads. Man gets choked by cops. Dies. That's one thread. Little boy gets shot in the park by a cop. Nothing happens. Another thread. So, religion identifies us, but it shouldn't isolate us. I'm closing with this. 5 minutes. We're going to serve the Lord's Supper and give, and bid you a good day, and come back at 3 o'clock for our area-wide youth meeting. Understand this. Righteousness can start with the individual, but it must become institutional. If you're a Christian, you must look at life not only through the lens of an individual, but you got to move into what's institutional. We're a faith institution. We're an organism. We're many things. We're a church. We're an organization. We have an institution. We have an incorporated status. Right? We have a legal right and responsibility to occupy this spot of land in Lake Charles, in the state of Louisiana. There's legal ramifications. Our name means something. There's an institutional aspect to our church.
Yes.
Yeah.
And righteousness must likewise be viewed not only individually, but institutionally.
Yes.
Because in the story, again, we see apathy of the social, political, and religious institutions. Warren Wiersbe says, it's much easier to maintain a religious system than it is to improve the neighborhood.
Wow.
Because the robbers attacked the man on the road between Jerusalem and Jericho. King preached about it. The Jericho road.
Yeah.
So you had apathy from those in power who wanted to maintain the power structure but didn't want to fix the dangerous vulnerability that existed when you traveled from Jerusalem to Jericho.
Right. Right.
You had priests that represented the church. A Levite represented God's people. Both of them kept walking and crossed the street.
Right, right.
But the Samaritan, who was institutionally ostracized. I'm done. He was the one that was kept out of the institution. But he was the one that understood. And here's what we close on this shop with. The Samaritan didn't pull this off by himself.
Beautiful.
The Samaritan bandaged them, put oil and wine, which were considered in that day, in biblical antiquity, these were healing agents.
Right, right.
He rubbed it on there, cared for the man, became a paramedic, right there on the side of the highway.
Yeah.
You become all things to all men and women, that you might save some.
That's right.
Paul said, take the Holy Ghost.
Yeah.
He became a paramedic
Yeah.
and saved a man's life. But then it stopped there. Because, brothers and sisters, it would have done him no good to bandage him and leave him on the highway.
Right.
Teach.
I'm done. I got 3 minutes. I'm done. So, but he bandaged him, but then he took him, put him on his donkey. And where did he take him? He took him to the inn. So this is institutional now. He took him to the inn. He gave the necessary fee to the inn people. Catch this. Look after him for me. I've got to go because I'm headed somewhere. I had plans before I stopped. I've got to go fulfill them, but I'm coming back. And whatever you need reimbursed, I got it.
That's what he said, Doc.
That ain't the shout. The shout ain't or is not that the man gave the money for him to stay and promised he'd pay whatever was left over on his balance. The shout for me was, Reverend, that the innkeeper agreed to let him do it. Now, I thought I'd have 3 or 4 folk and I'd make 5 that can get happy. I said the shout for me was not that the man simply paid for the man to stay overnight. The shout for me was the man in charge of the inn. He agreed to it. Which tells me nothing that is done in this society that cures social ills can be done by individuals alone. You gotta have individuals who are in positions of power in institutions.
Beautiful.
That are willing to agree to a righteous plan.
Right. That's right. That's right.
He
Beautiful.
agreed to let the man stay, knowing there was still a balance on the room. But he let him stay anyway, because it was the right thing to do. You remember what Spike Lee did a long time ago? When he put out that movie, Do the Right Thing? Don't sit there and act like you didn't watch that movie and enjoy it. You remember Do the Right Thing? What Spike Lee was trying to do was challenge the consciousness through cinema. But here's what our challenge is. As believers, when it becomes your moment your opportunity to step up
All right.
and wield your institutional influence.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Come on, preacher.
Will you step up?
Yes, sir.
Just good.
When you in charge of something,
Come on.
and you got your nice office, and your name badge, and your button, and your microwave, and your little mini refrigerator in there,
Come on, preacher.
what are you gonna do when you walk out of there? When it's your turn to help somebody who's on the side of the road, who's vulnerable, and who's poor, and who needs some love, and needs some affirmation, and needs healing, and needs restoration, needs some clothes, needs some food for a little while. Will you step up? I'm glad that we have an example.
Yeah.
Because that man on the side of the road was the only one that was in need of help.
Go right there.
Somebody knows where I'm going.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because one day, everybody was cast into one group. And all of us needed help.
All right.
All of us were headed down the highway on our way to hell.
Go ahead.
But another man showed up. I said another man. And his name is Jesus. And Jesus, he healed some folks. He encouraged some folks. He gave strength where limbs had been lame. He opened ears that had been closed. Opened eyes that could not see. But that wasn't enough. Because if he healed the folks, but did not secure their soul, then it would have all been in vain. So Jesus went to a cross. I said he went to a cross. And he gave his life that you and I might have life. He died, I tell you. He died, I tell you. He died on Friday. He stayed there Friday night. And he stayed there Saturday night. But early Sunday morning, I said early Sunday morning, I said early Sunday morning, he got up, and he got up for you and me. And because he got up,
All right, preacher.
you and I can worship in this place. We don't have to worry about cops coming in, Ku Klux Klan coming in. We can all worship. Black, white, blue, red, doesn't matter. We can all worship. Short hair, long hair, we can all worship. Tall, short, light skin, dark skin, whatever you, yellow bone, red bone, whatever you want to call yourself. We can all worship. Why? Because a man saw the need and acted on our behalf. And that's what we're called to do. That's the voice of conscience. You should never live in isolation just because you have differences. And you should always remember, it's always bigger than you. Your individual acts of compassion are great. We need those. But we also need folk to understand that we've got to cooperatively act in ways that benefit our society. Stand with me today.
Beautiful.